So.
And also, I think about how if you've seen your parents fighting growing up, it's familiar to you. It has a sense of normalcy, and so when you get angry or when pressure comes, you unconsciously and consciously revert back to what's familiar and those behaviors. You know, so somebody might say, you know, well, why would a woman want to be choked? You know, she don't feel attention or love unless she gets choked or some type of reaction from a man. You know, it's almost as if you settle and say, well, at least it's a reaction. You know, at least I know he's paying attention.
Just mad, or and you make excuses to say, well, my situation is not as bad as the next one because he only hit me once, or he just chokes me. He doesn't knock me down. So you start making excuses to the reason why that this is happening to you.
Insanity, doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. Extreme unreasonableness. Shelley, with the definition of insanity in mind, tell me why a woman should leave.
Only because if you allow yourself to continually go through that same thing, you're going to get to a point where you're not going to think you need to leave. Where you sit there and you see, well, it's a routine, it's a pattern. You might be going down, but you genuinely sit there and like, hey, I might as well stay. I'm used to it now anyway. Some women do actually sit there and just, I've been taking it this long, I'm good. And if someone actually comes to them and lets them know, looking on the outside, baby, you going through too much. Well, I've been dealing, I'm good. I'm good. There are a lot, I'm good. And don't even say anything out to people because that's just what they're used to.
I can remember years back, I was riding with a girlfriend and her husband, and I'm in their world, you know, so I'm not used to their world. And so we're riding and they get into an argument, and she turned down the radio, he turned up the radio. She snatched the keys out the ignition and starts hitting him, and he punches her. Then he put both of us out the car in the rain. I'm saying, well, why I got to get out, you know? But so in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, this is it. You know, it's divorce time. But no, he came right back around the corner. Probably 10 minutes later, we walking wherever we was going. And she gets back in the car. Time passed, so in her mind, they had moved on. You know what I mean?
It's a lot. It's a lot of people like that. It's a lot of people like that.
So, Julie, could you tell us, Julia or Rhea, whomever, why a woman should leave?
Well, you know, if it's for no other reason, especially if there are children involved, you know, leave for your kids. You've got to know that if you're in a situation that is toxic, like abuse, that eventually it is not going to have a happy ending. And that is your reality. Your reality is one day either you're going to end up dead, he's going to end up dead, something is going to go terribly wrong with the situation. You just got to know it's going to end up to be a detriment. But if you don't get out for any other reason, get out for your children, if you have children involved.
And get out for yourself.
But usually when you're caught up in a situation like that, you're not thinking about yourself. You have to get back to a point where you put yourself first, because as it gets to this point, or it's gotten to that point, you're not thinking of self. So you do have to find other areas to think about to give you the initiative to say, I need to leave. And it does start with your children, your life, and different things like that, because before it gets any bad, before it gets worse, you want to make sure that you get out, because like you said, it can result to death, and that's the last straw. So you have to think of other options to clear your mind to say, I got to go, because at that point you're not thinking about yourself because you've allowed yourself to get to that point.
This is for any of you. Tell us about the not so evident signs of a male or female abuser, be it words, controlling habits. Speak on that.
Usually I say the first thing is isolation. Most of the time people think that, oh, he just wants me to himself, or he just wants to be with me all the time. And a lot of people interpret that as affection. That, you know, he wants to be up under me and he doesn't want me going anywhere, and I understand because we need to have time together. And generally what an abuser will do before they do anything is isolate you. Isolate you from your friends, your family. They'll be more controlling of your time, and it may come out subtle. It may not be real aggressive in the beginning, but it may be little things that you used to do that you don't do anymore.
I thought you said you was gonna call me when you came from
Applebee's. Exactly. Little stuff, and easy to overlook. You know, oh, well, he's just a little, you know, that's just how he is, and you write it off as just being nothing. But it starts to escalate, and as it starts to escalate, the pattern, like Shelly said earlier, the pattern's set, and it just escalates into more deeper isolation. So that's one of the huge signs that you find in an abusive relationship in the beginning, is that isolation. Yeah.
And I might also think his personal being. Like what type of person he or she is, what type of attitude, the anger, you know, all of these things that people think that they can't see, that you just kind of let you brush to the side.
Right.
You have to pay attention to anger issues, how he treat his mother, how he treat people around him, what's his level, what gets him to the point where he can be so mad within a matter of seconds or minutes. I mean, you have to pay attention to the little stuff, because we kind of brush that off to say, oh, well, maybe that's just how he is. You know, so you have to pay attention to the small stuff.
That's a major thing. Also, I was thinking about not so much the person that's distancing you, but like she said, the relationship with not just his mother, his father. What type of upbringing did his father give, or his mother as well? But a lot of times, I guess I'm speaking as far as a woman to a man, coming from a woman's point. What type of relationship did him and his father have? Exactly what type of person was his father? Because if his father, if you're looking to go into a relationship like this is who he's patterning himself after as well. Did they spend time together? If they didn't spend time together, did him and his mother have issues? You understand what I'm saying? Just the different making up of his upbringing, and like she said, friends involved too. Just see the type of people that he has in his space.
I think about the movie Antoine Fisher. Fine as that dude was at the end, you know, when he's in, what was it, the Navy. We get with these men, but you don't know what they've been through. And like Shelly said, you gotta know their story, not judging them, but you know, what type of environment did you grow up in? Was it hostile? Were you ever in a situation where there was trauma and you were rendered powerless? Did you get mental health for that? Did you see any loved one hurt before, robbed? Were you sexually abused? If we're going to live with each other and share lives and share the same space, we can't be ashamed or scared or Miss Nice Girl, you know.
It's hard.
You gotta ask the hard questions.
And like I tell people all the time, when you first dating, in that first date, you already know what you're dealing with. That's when you're supposed to ask your questions, because by the time that date is over, you already know if you're going to deal with this person or if you're not. That is the time that you sit there and you ask those type of questions. He may think that's too soon, but you need to ask those questions, because you need to know what you're dealing with. And you will know that in your first conversation. If he hiding stuff from you or he can't be upfront with you, that's a sign. It's all different things that you have to know what you're dealing with and what your questions are when you start dating or meet someone that you want to consider to be your mate.
Some of us have heard stories or have friends that say, girl, he pulled my hair, but I blacked his eye. Is it still abuse if the woman or man, because men get abused too, is it still abuse if it's mutual, if you're fighting back?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
It's a toxic relationship either way, because you shouldn't have to, that shouldn't be the normalcy in your relationship, is that we fight to resolve conflict. That's not a way to resolve conflict. It's not a healthy way to resolve conflict, because eventually, again, even if it's a situation where a woman is fighting back, eventually it can turn fatal. It can turn into a situation, and especially if you have kids watching, they'll think that's how you resolve conflict. You fight each other. And so that can't be the normalcy in a relationship. It's toxic, and that's when 9 times out of 10 you need to get out of it and walk away.